I was scrubbing the marble floor of the penthouse office when I heard it, the phrase that changed everything. "Bonuses are only for those who deserve them," Mr. Harrison said, his voice dripping with disdain as he looked at me like I was part of the dirt I was cleaning. My name is Min G. Park, and for 3 years I'd been cleaning the offices of Harrison Capital in Vancouver. 3 years scrubbing the toilets of executives who made in an hour what I made in a month. And in December, when everyone was talking about year-end bonuses, I dared to ask about mine. "Big mistake. You think you deserve a bonus?" He laughed, and it wasn't a kind laugh. It was the kind that cuts, that reminds you of your place. You clean floors, Minji. You don't generate revenue. You don't close deals. You're essential, sure. He said the word like it left a bad taste in his mouth. But bonuses are for performers, for people who matter to the bottom line. I stood there on my knees, hands still on my mop, feeling my face burn with shame. Other cleaners were nearby, all of us Korean, all immigrants trying to survive in Vancouver, where rent ate half our paychecks. None of us said anything. What could we say? "Now, if you'll excuse me," Mr. Harrison continued, adjusting the cuffs of his $1,000 shirt, "I have a dinner with investors, real people, people who create value." He walked out, leaving a trail of expensive cologne and humiliation. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my tiny East Vancouver apartment, staring at the leaking ceiling, thinking about his words. Deserving. As if human value could be measured in spreadsheets and profit reports. As if the work I did, keeping that office spotless, making sure those executives never had to think about toilet paper or overflowing trash cans, didn't matter. But here's the thing about being invisible, about being the person everyone ignores. You see things, you hear things, and that week, as I was cleaning the conference room after a late-night executive meeting, I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. An open file on Mr. Harrison's laptop. He'd rushed out to take a call, leaving everything on the table, and there, illuminated by the blue glow of the screen, was a spreadsheet. Employee Bonus Fund 2024. Millions of dollars. Listed. Categorized. But something was wrong. The numbers didn't add up. I'm good with math. Had to be, managing every penny of my paycheck. And even with just a quick glance, I could see it. The total amounts at the top didn't match the sum of individual bonuses listed below. Money was missing. A lot of money. My heart raced. I snapped a quick photo with my phone, not even thinking, just knowing this was important. Then I heard footsteps. Quickly, I went back to cleaning, wiping the same spot on the conference table I'd already cleaned 5 times. Mr. Harrison walked back in, gave me that look I knew so well, the look that sees you but doesn't really see you, and snapped the laptop shut. "Finish up quickly, and don't touch anything on the desks." "Yes, sir," I said, keeping my head down, heart still pounding. That night, back in my apartment, I looked at the photo. I zoomed in, I studied it, and slowly the truth started to form. Mr. Harrison and the top executives were skimming money from the bonus fund, money that was supposed to go to mid-level employees, analysts, assistants, junior managers, people who worked 80-hour weeks expecting that year-end bonus that would help pay off student loans or fix their broken-down car. But it wasn't just that. When I looked closer, I saw something even worse. There was a line in the spreadsheet marked 12-month salary, service staff. In Canada, we don't have a 13th month salary like they do in Brazil, but many companies with immigrant employees from Latin America and Asia had started offering this, an extra year-end bonus equivalent to a month's salary, a promise, a contract. And that money, it was being skimmed too. I felt sick. Not just for me, but for all of us. The cleaning crew, the mailroom staff, the cafeteria workers, people who could barely make rent, who sent money back to family in Korea or the Philippines or Mexico, people counting on that bonus to survive the Vancouver winter, to afford Christmas presents for their kids, to maybe, just maybe, get ahead for once.
The next day at work, I couldn't focus. I kept replaying the numbers in my head. I'd taken accounting courses back in Seoul before I moved to Canada, before my degree became worthless paper in a country that didn't recognize foreign credentials. I knew what I was looking at. This was fraud. Plain and simple. Minji, you okay? It was Sun-hee, another cleaner on my team. She was older, had been in Canada for 20 years, still cleaning offices. You look worried. I'm fine, I lied. Because how could I tell her? How could I tell anyone without proof, without a plan? That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I stayed late, way late. Everyone had gone home, the executives, the staff, even the security guards on break. I went back to the conference room, to Mr. Harrison's usual spot. His laptop was locked, of course, but he kept paper files. Old-fashioned, my friend Jinsu would say. A security risk. I found them in the cabinet under the coffee station, file after file of bonus calculations, going back 3 years. And then every single year, the same pattern. Money allocated, money distributed, but with a gap. A gap that perfectly matched the amount that would go to service staff and lower-level employees. I photographed everything. My hands were shaking so badly I had to retake half the shots. This was it. This was proof. But what was I supposed to do with it? Going to HR was out of the question. They protected the company, not us. Going to the police? Would they even care about wage theft from a cleaning lady? I'd heard the stories. Immigrant workers reporting violations and getting deported instead of justice. I needed help. Real help. And I knew exactly one person who might understand. David Kim was a junior accountant at Harrison Capital, Korean-Canadian, second generation, young guy who actually said good morning to the cleaning staff. I'd seen him working late sometimes, stressed, bags under his eyes. He seemed decent as anyone in that building could be. The next morning, I caught him in the break room. My heart was hammering. This was dangerous. I could lose everything. But I thought about Sun-hee, about her grandson who needed surgery, about Jinsu saving for his daughter's university, about all of us. Mr. Kim, I said quietly, I need to talk to you. It's important. He looked surprised. Cleaners didn't usually talk to executives, even junior ones. Sure, what's up? Not here. I glanced around. Empty, but you never knew. Maybe coffee after work? He hesitated, probably wondering if this was weird, but he nodded. Okay, there's a cafe on Robeson. The Bean around? I know it. 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. I spent the whole day terrified I'd made a mistake. What if he told someone? What if I'd just handed them proof of my snooping? But when 6 o'clock came and I walked into that cafe, David was there, looking concerned. Minji, right? You sounded serious. Is everything okay? I pulled out my phone, opened the photos, slid it across the table. Tell me what you see. He looked confused at first, then curious, then his face went pale. He zoomed in, scrolled through, his jaw literally dropping. Where did you get this? Conference room. Mr. Harrison left his laptop open. He couldn't finish. He was staring at the numbers like they were physically painful. Do you know what this means? I think so, but I need someone who understands the system. Is it what I think it is? David ran his hand through his hair. It's worse. Minji, this isn't just skimming. This is systematic fraud. They've been stealing from the bonus pool for years. And look here. He zoomed in on a section. They've been reporting the full amounts to the board, claiming they paid them out. But these internal sheets show the actual distribution. The difference goes into... Oh my God. What? Shell accounts. Offshore.
They're not just stealing from employees, they're stealing from the company itself. He looked up at me, and I saw real fear in his eyes. Minji, this could take down the whole firm, and the people responsible, they'll do anything to keep this quiet. I felt cold. What do I do? You go to the authorities, but not local. This is big enough you need federal, Securities Commission, maybe even the RCMP's Financial Crimes Unit. Will they believe a cleaner? He looked at me for a long moment. They'll believe the evidence. And Minji, this is incredibly brave, but it's also incredibly dangerous. He was right. Within 2 days of our meeting, things started getting weird. My work schedule got changed without notice. I'd be assigned to clean areas I'd never cleaned before, always when no one else was around. My locker got broken into, though nothing was stolen. Little things. Things that could be coincidence, but felt like warning shots. Sunhee noticed. "Someone's watching you," she said one morning. "Be careful." I'm always careful. No. She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know when people are being watched. Whatever you're doing, be very careful. I almost backed out, almost decided it wasn't worth it. But then I overheard something that made my stomach seek to my stomach. The service staff bonuses? Mr. Harrison was on his phone in his office. I was cleaning the hallway outside. Cancel them. Come up with some excuse. Economic downturn, whatever. Just make sure it's legal sounding. "But sir, we already promised," someone on speakerphone said. "I don't care what we promised. These people don't have lawyers. They're not going to fight us. And if they quit, fine. There's 10 more desperate immigrants for every one of them." Desperate immigrants. That's what we were to him. Interchangeable. Disposable. I finished that shift in a rage. That night, I called David. "I'm ready. Let's do this." He'd been working on it too, it turned out. Pulling records, finding patterns, building a case. "I've been documenting everything I can access internally, but I need your photos. And Minji, we need more people. This can't just be us. We need other employees to verify, to show this isn't isolated. I can talk to the cleaning crew, but the others, the office workers, leave that to me." Over the next 2 weeks, something unexpected happened. David started quietly reaching out to other employees, ones he trusted, and what he found shocked both of us. Everyone knew something was wrong. Junior analysts who had been promised bonuses that never materialized, administrative assistants whose performance review adjustments had slashed their expected payouts, security guards who had had their overtime miscalculated. We weren't alone. There were dozens of us, maybe more. "We need to move fast," David said during one of our secret meetings at the cafe. It had become our headquarters. "I just heard that Harrison is planning to transfer a lot of money offshore right after the holidays. If that happens, we'll never recover it." "What's the plan?" "We go to the British Columbia Securities Commission first thing Monday. I've already reached out to a contact there. They're interested, very interested." That Monday, December 18th, we walked into the BCSC offices with a file 3 inches thick. Evidence, testimonies, bank records David had managed to access, my photos, everything. The investigator who met with us, a woman named Sarah Chen, listened to everything, took notes, asked pointed questions, and at the end, she looked at us with something like respect. "This is substantial. We'll need to verify everything, but if this is accurate, we're looking at multiple charges. Securities fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. Mr. Harrison and his accomplices could face serious prison time." "What about us? The money that was stolen, can we get it back?" "That's what we'll fight for. But I'll be honest with you. These cases take time, months, maybe years." My heart sunk. "We need that money now. The 13th salary, the bonuses. People were counting on it. Christmas is next week." Sarah's expression softened. "I understand. Let me see what we can do." What happened next happened fast. The BCSC moved quickly, probably because the evidence was so damning. They froze Harrison's capital accounts, seized records. By Wednesday, Mr. Harrison and 3 other executives were arrested. The news exploded. Major Vancouver investment firm executives arrested in massive fraud scheme, millions stolen from employee bonus fund. The reporters loved the angle of the cleaning lady who brought down the millionaire. But here's what the news didn't show. The next week, when we were all called into a meeting at the office, the lawyers explaining that the frozen accounts included the legitimate bonus money, that while they were working to sort it out, it could take months, that Christmas was in 4 days, and we weren't getting anything. Sun-hee started crying, quiet, dignified tears. Jin-soo just stared at his hands. Around the room, people were calculating how to tell their kids, how to pay rent, how to survive. I felt responsible. I'd done this. I'd exposed the fraud, and now everyone was suffering because of it. But then David stood up. "Wait," he said. "There might be another way."
He explained that the frozen accounts were corporate accounts, but the evidence showed that the stolen money had been moved to personal offshore accounts belonging to Harrison and the others, accounts that weren't part of the company assets. If we can prove those accounts contain stolen employee wages, we can petition for an emergency order to seize them and distribute them directly to affected employees. It's unusual, but given the circumstances, especially the timing. "How long would that take?" someone asked. "Fast-tracked? Maybe a week." "Christmas is in 4 days," Sun-hee said quietly. David looked at me. I looked at Sarah Chen, who'd come to the meeting. She was thinking, I could see it. Then she nodded. "I'll make some calls. No promises, but I'll try to get an emergency hearing." She did more than try. She called in favors, worked through the weekend, got a judge to agree to an unprecedented emergency order. On December 23rd, 3 days before Christmas, we all got the call. The seized offshore accounts had been verified as containing stolen wages. An emergency distribution was being processed. We'd have our money by Christmas Eve. I didn't believe it until I saw it. December 24th, late afternoon, my phone pinged. Bank deposit. Not just my 13th month salary, not just my share of the bonus, but 3 years' worth. Everything they'd stolen, plus interest. Sun-hee called me, crying again, but happy tears this time. My grandson. I can pay for his surgery. All of it. Jin-soo texted me a photo of his daughter. She's going to university. Full ride, but she needed a laptop and books. I can give her that now because of you. But it wasn't just because of me. It was because of all of us. Because David chose to risk his career to help. Because Sarah Chen fought the system from the inside. Because the cleaning crew and the assistants and the analysts all stood together and said no more. On Christmas Day, I was in my apartment. Not the leaking East Vancouver place anymore. I had already put a deposit on something better. Something with heat that actually worked, and windows that didn't let the rain in. I was making kimchi jjigae, the Korean stew my mom used to make, planning to take it to Sun-hee's place where the whole cleaning crew was gathering for dinner. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. "Minji, this is Michael Sato. I'm with the British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal. I wanted to reach out personally." "Oh, okay. We've been following your case. It's remarkable. But more than that, it's exposed a systemic issue. Immigrant workers, service staff, being taken advantage of because they're afraid to speak up, because they don't think anyone will listen." "Yes, sir, that's what happened." We want to change that. We're creating a new whistleblower protection program specifically for low-wage workers. We're calling it the Minji Protocol. I almost dropped the phone. "You're what?" "We're naming it after you. If you'll allow us, it'll provide legal protection, financial support during investigations, and a direct hotline to report violations. We should have had this years ago. You proved we need it now." I couldn't speak.
I was crying, standing in my new apartment that smelled like stew and possibility, crying because something good had come from something terrible. "Will you come speak at the launch?" Michael asked. "Share your story? Help other people understand they have rights? They have power?" "Yes," I managed. "Yes, I'll do it." That evening, at Sun Hee's apartment, surrounded by people who'd become family, I told them. There was cheering, hugging, Jinsu doing a ridiculous dance that made everyone laugh, but then Sun Hee raised her glass of soju. "To Minji," she said, "who taught us that deserving has nothing to do with what job you have. It has everything to do with being human."
Everyone drank, and I thought about Mr. Harrison's words that day in December, "Bonuses are only for those who deserve them." He'd meant it as a dismissal, a way to keep us in our place. But he was right, in a way he never intended. Bonuses, dignity, justice, they are for those who deserve them. And the truth is, we all deserve them. Not because of what we do for a living, but because we're human beings, trying to survive in a world that keeps telling us we're not enough. The party went late into the night. Jinsu's daughter video called from Seoul, where she was visiting family before starting university. She thanked me, crying, saying she'd always remember what I did. Sun Hee's grandson, the one who needed surgery, showed us his new toy robot, a gift she could finally afford. The irony wasn't lost on me. We were celebrating humanity by giving a kid a machine. But that night, as I walked home through the cold Vancouver streets, Christmas lights twinkling in windows, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, solid hope. Not the desperate kind that's just disguised fear, but the kind that comes from knowing you fought and won. My phone buzzed. A text from David. "Check your email. Something came through." I stopped under a streetlight, breath fogging in the December air, and opened my email. It was from a journalist at the Vancouver Sun. They wanted to do a feature story, not just about the fraud case, but about me, about my journey from Seoul to Vancouver, from university graduate to cleaning lady to whistleblower. "The human cost of corporate greed," the subject line read. I called David back. "Did you see this?" "Yeah, you should do it. People need to hear your story, all of it." "I don't know. I'm not trying to be famous. I just wanted what was right." "That's exactly why you should do it, Minji. You're not doing this for fame. You're doing it so the next person in your situation knows they're not alone, that they can fight back." He was right. I knew he was right, but the idea of putting my whole life out there, of having strangers judge my choices, my struggles, it terrified me. "Think about it," David said, "but don't take too long. Stories like this, they have a shelf life." That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. But this time it wasn't fear or anger keeping me awake, it was memory. I kept thinking about my first day in Canada, 7 years ago. I'd arrived in February, in the middle of a Vancouver winter that felt like it was trying to kill me. Everything was gray, the sky, the buildings, the people's faces. I'd had such high hopes. My economics degree from Yonsei University, one of the top schools in Korea. My perfect English. My savings that I thought would last months but disappeared in weeks because I hadn't understood how expensive everything was. I remembered my first job interview, an accounting firm downtown. The interviewer had looked at my resume, nodded politely, and said, "Your credentials are impressive for Korea, but we'd need you to get Canadian certification. That takes time and money. Have you considered starting in a more entry-level position?" Entry-level, I'd learned, meant retail, minimum wage, completely unrelated to my degree. I'd taken a job at a coffee shop, served lattes to people younger than me who worked in the offices I dreamed of. They'd complain about their jobs, about their bosses, about how hard their lives were. And I'd smile and make their drinks and wonder when my real life would start. The coffee shop lasted 6 months, then retail at a clothing store, then finally the cleaning job at Harrison Capital. By then, I'd given up on my degree mattering. I'd given up on a lot of things. I just needed to survive, to send money home to my mother in Seoul who was sick and needed treatment, to prove that coming to Canada wasn't a mistake, even though it felt like the biggest mistake of my life.
But here's what I realized that Christmas night, lying in my new apartment with the working heater and the windows that didn't leak. Those years of struggle, of humiliation, of feeling worthless, they'd taught me something the executives at Harrison Capital never learned. They taught me to see people, really see them, to understand that a person's job title doesn't define their value, that the woman cleaning your office might have a degree in economics, that the security guard might speak 4 languages, that the cafeteria worker might be a trained chef. We're all so much more than what we do for money, but sometimes it takes losing everything to understand that. I decided to do the interview. I called the journalist the next morning, December 26th. Her name was Maria Santos, and she met me at a cafe in Gastown, tape recorder and notepad ready. "Minji," she said, shaking my hand warmly. "Thank you for doing this. Your story is incredible." I'm not sure what to say. I just did what anyone would do. She smiled. "That's where you're wrong. Most people wouldn't have done anything. They would have been too scared, too tired, too convinced it wouldn't matter. You weren't." We talked for 3 hours. I told her everything. Seoul, my degree, coming to Canada, the crushing disappointment of finding out my education meant nothing here, the years of menial jobs, of being invisible, of watching people who were less educated, less qualified, but born in the right country, get opportunities I couldn't even apply for. "Did you ever think about going back to Korea?" Maria asked. "Every day for the first year. But my mother needed my help. She has cancer. The treatment is expensive, and I'd already spent so much money to come here. Going back felt like admitting defeat." "And now, do you still feel that way?" I thought about it. "No, because I understand something now. Success isn't about the job you have or how much money you make. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when you might lose everything. I did that. That's success." The article came out on January 3rd, front page. The cleaning lady who exposed Vancouver's biggest corporate fraud. The response was overwhelming. My phone didn't stop ringing. News channels wanted interviews, podcasts, radio shows. I said yes to some, no to others. I tried to use each platform to talk about the bigger issues: immigrant worker rights, wage theft, the way society values certain types of work over others. But there was a dark side too. Angry emails from people who lost money when Harrison Capital collapsed. Death threats from people who thought I was just a troublemaker, a foreigner who didn't understand how business worked. Comments on articles calling me everything from a hero to a communist spy. The internet, I learned, was a harsh place. Through it all, David stayed in touch. We'd become real friends, bonded by what we'd been through. He was dealing with his own fallout. Some people at the new company saw him as a hero, but others saw him as disloyal, someone who'd turned on his employer. "They don't get it," he told me over coffee one afternoon in January. "I didn't turn on my employer. I exposed criminals who were stealing from everyone. There's a difference." Some people don't want to see the difference. It's easier to blame the messenger than to face the truth. He sighed, stirring his coffee. My dad's one of them. Called me last week, said I should have kept my head down, not gotten involved, that I ruined my chances at a good career. What did you tell him? I told him I'd rather have a clear conscience than a corner office. I don't think he understood. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing, and I think your career will be fine, better than fine. Companies need people with integrity." From your mouth to God's ears, he laughed. But it turned out I was right. In February, David got a call from a major accounting firm. They'd read about the Harrison case. They were impressed by his ethics, his attention to detail, his willingness to speak up. They offered him a position in their forensic accounting department, investigating fraud and financial crimes. Better pay, better benefits, and work that actually meant something. I was speechless. A real career, using my skills, getting paid fairly. It felt like a dream. "Think about it," David said. "No pressure, but I think you'd be amazing at it." I did think about it. I thought about it a lot. Part of me was thrilled. This was the opportunity I dreamed of for years. But another part of me felt conflicted. What about the cleaning crew? What about Sunhee and Jinsu and all the others? Was I abandoning them by moving up? I called Sunhee and told her about the offer. She listened quietly, then said something I'll never forget. Minji, you think staying in cleaning keeps you connected to us? That's nonsense. You move up, you take that job, you become someone powerful. Then you help people like us from the inside. That's how you really make a difference. But what if I forget where I came from? You won't. You can't. It's part of you now. You'll carry us with you everywhere you go. I knew she was right. I knew she was right. So in March, I accepted the position, fraud investigator. It felt strange wearing business clothes instead of a uniform, having my own desk, my own computer, business cards with my name on them. Minji Park, fraud investigator. My first case was at a restaurant chain in Richmond. Reports of wage theft, tips being stolen, overtime violations. I went in as a kitchen worker. Within 2 weeks, I had enough evidence to file a report. The owners were heavily fined, forced to pay back wages, and put under monitoring. The workers got justice.
It felt good. Really good. Like I'd found my purpose. But the Harrison case wasn't over. Not really. In April, I got a call from a lawyer. Mr. Harrison was filing a civil suit against me. Defamation. Claiming I'd ruined his reputation with false accusations. Never mind that he'd been convicted of fraud in criminal court. Never mind the evidence. He was suing me for $5 million. I panicked, called David, called Sarah Chen at the BCSC, called the lawyer who'd helped during the criminal case. He has no case, the lawyer assured me. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. But he knows that. This is about intimidation, about punishing you for speaking up, about discouraging others from doing the same. So what do? You fight back, and you win, but it's going to be expensive and time-consuming. Are you ready for that? I thought about it. Thought about how much easier it would be to just settle, to make this go away, to move on with my new life and forget about Harrison. But then I thought about Sunhee, about Jinsu, about all the people who'd stood up with me, about the message it would send if I backed down now. I'm ready, I said. Let's fight. The legal battle dragged on for months. Depositions, hearings, endless paperwork. Harrison's lawyers tried everything, attacking my credibility, questioning my motives, digging into my immigration status, looking for anything they could use. But we had the truth on our side, and the criminal conviction, and public opinion. In September, the judge dismissed the case. Not just dismissed, condemned it. Called it a frivolous attempt to weaponize the legal system against a whistleblower. Ordered Harrison to pay my legal fees plus punitive damages. I won. But the real victory came a week later. I got a call from Michael Sato at the Human Rights Tribunal. Minji, the Minji Protocol, the Whistleblower Protection Program, it just won its first case. A construction worker from Surrey. His employer was stealing wages. He reported it, got fired, but the protocol protected him, helped him prove wrongful termination, got his job back plus compensation. He called to thank you, said you gave him courage. I cried. Right there in my office on the phone with Michael, I cried because it had all been worth it. Every scary moment, every threat, every sleepless night. It had been worth it because it was helping people with real problems. That's when I realized something important. The story everyone wanted to tell about me was the dramatic one. The brave whistleblower taking down the corrupt millionaire. David versus Goliath. It made for good headlines, but that wasn't the real story. The real story was about all of us.
about every person who'd ever been told they didn't matter. Every immigrant who'd been treated as disposable, every low-wage worker who'd been cheated and stayed silent because they thought no one would care. The story was about what happens when we stop accepting injustice, when we stop letting fear control us, when we remember that we're human beings with dignity and rights regardless of where we were born or what we do for a living. In December, exactly 1 year after I'd first seen that incriminating spreadsheet, the nonprofit I'd been working with part-time offered me a full position, Director of Worker Advocacy. It meant leaving the fraud investigation job, but it also meant doing something even more important, preventing fraud before it happened, educating workers about their rights, training them to recognize abuse, building systems to protect them. I accepted. And on my first day in that role, I went back to Harrison Capital, or what used to be Harrison Capital. The building had new management now, ethical management. They'd invited me to speak to their staff about workplace culture and integrity.
I stood in that same conference room where I'd once cleaned tables and hidden in corners, but this time, I stood at the front, behind the lectern, speaking into a microphone, and every person in that room, executives, analysts, administrative staff, cleaning crew, they were all listening. A year ago, I said, I was invisible in this building. I cleaned your offices, I emptied your trash, and I was treated like I was less than human by the people in charge. But I want you to understand something. I was never less than human. None of us are. And the moment we forget that, the moment we start treating people as resources instead of human beings, that's when we lose our way. I saw nods, people taking notes, some people crying. The cleaning staff in the back, they were standing tall, proud. Everyone in this room has value, not because of your job title or your salary, but because you're human. And if you see something wrong, speak up. If you're being mistreated, speak up. If you see someone else being mistreated, speak up for them. Because silence protects oppression. Only truth sets us free. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. People lined up afterward to shake my hand, to thank me, to tell me their own stories of injustice they'd been too afraid to report. I listened to everyone, took business cards, made promises to help. This was my work now. This was my purpose. That evening, I met Sun-hee and Jin-soo for dinner at a Korean restaurant in Koreatown. We'd made it a tradition. Last Wednesday of every month, we'd gather and share updates. Sun-hee's grandson was thriving after his surgery. Jin-soo's daughter was excelling at university. They were both still cleaning, but with better pay and better treatment under the new management. To growth, Jin-soo said, raising his glass. To speaking up. To Minji, who started all this. No, I corrected. To all of us. We did this together, and we're not done yet. There are still companies out there cheating workers, still people too afraid to speak up, still systems that protect the powerful instead of the vulnerable. But we're changing that, one case at a time. One person at a time, Sun-hee added. Because you taught us something, Minji. You taught us that one person can make a difference, if they're brave enough to try. I smiled, thinking about everything that had happened in the past year. The fear, the fights, the victories, the transformation from invisible cleaning lady to visible advocate, from someone who accepted injustice to someone who fought it. I wasn't brave. I was desperate and angry and tired of being treated like I didn't matter. That's what bravery is, Sun-hee said, being scared and angry and doing the right thing anyway. She was right. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's action despite fear. It's seeing injustice and refusing to look away. It's risking everything because some things are worth the risk. Your dignity, your humanity, your belief that the world can be better if we fight to make it so. And that fight, it never really ends. But it's a fight worth having every single day because we all deserve better.
And sometimes it takes just one person willing to say so to change everything.